Biblical balance. If I honor God and His Word, I've got to acknowledge and deal, listen, with wolves. That's what Paul's about to tell them. And by the way, Jesus said some of those wolves are in sheep's clothing. Y'all remember that? Matthew chapter 7. He said there'll be some wolves, but they'll be in sheep's clothing. So they're going to look like sheep. But they're not sheep. They're wolves. There's wolves outside the church and there's wolves inside the church. And Paul says in Acts 20, verse 29, they're grievous wolves. I know this, that after my departing shall grievous wolves. See that? What does that word mean? It means burdensome and it means savage. Fierce, weighty, not sparing the flock. They don't care about the flock. It's all about them. It's all about self. Paul wants them to be aware of this. So they're on the outside. Who would those wolves be? False preachers? False teachers? Anti-Christian organizations like we have now all over America? The vitriol aimed at Christians in America now is scary. During COVID, you could have strip clubs open, liquor stores open, but the church had to close their doors. That's a hatred for Christianity. In one state in the United States of America, there were some parents, because in the public school where they were going, kids were having to be exposed to this LGBTQ, whatever it is, curriculum, and some parents went to the school board and said, we want to opt out, and a federal judge said, no, you cannot opt out. That's hatred for Christianity. It's what we're going to face. Wolves. I could give you a lot of examples. You and I really don't have any idea what it's like to be a Christian in Pakistan. We don't have a clue what it's like to be a Christian in Cuba. And I'm not saying we should. We don't know what it's like to be a Christian in the Ukraine right now. I read a prayer letter yesterday. Man, just break your heart. But what's going to happen when the wolves get turned loose? Even worse. So there's wolves outside the church, but they're also inside. I want to be very practical and very personal with Cornerstone Baptist Church this morning. God's been so good to our church. There's some underlying truths in verses 29 and 30 to tell us there's some people that just do not care about the flock as a whole. All they care about is them and their family. They don't care about the church as a whole. It's all about us, me. And the principle, you may not be a wolf, but the principle here is what they do is they lure, support their way, and divide the flock. They're divisive. Drawing away disciples after them is the way it's worded here, but they speak perverse things. Please listen to me, perverse things. What does that mean? Twisted, skewed, one-sided. People will tell you a story, and they'll say it in such a way that it'll make them look good and the other guy look bad. That's the qualities of a wolf. It's sort of like what the Bible says about the devil in Revelation 12. He's the accuser of the brethren. Stop and think about that. When you're an accuser of the brethren, who are you lining up with? If it's the truth, have you gone to them? I'm talking about the importance of the church and the heart of a pastor trying to warn people about wolves and people that divide the flock and people that cause trouble. God's been so good to Cornerstone. And listen, we're in a new building. We've had probably 15, 20 people join in the last few months. God's blessing. We're going to have our music school again. We're going to do a lot of wonderful things in the next few months and even years if the Lord tarries. Don't you know the devil's not going to take that laying down? And he'll try to use you or your family or me and try to disrupt the apple cart and get us to focus on things that are so secondary. We got to be careful about this. According to Paul the Apostle, this leadership has to look out and watch. Be careful. People will talk about doctrinal issues sometimes in churches and they'll divide over that, but it's usually not over doctrinal issues. It's usually over something else like music. Or modesty, or family problems. Listen, if you're having trouble at your house, don't try to get us to take sides. Matter of fact, if you want me to take sides, go ahead and come to me, and I'll tell you right now whose side I'm going to take. I think you're both wrong. I think you're both wrong. Isn't that a blessing? Because I know every problem I've ever faced with people in my family, they were wrong. But I was too. I could have handled it better. I could have handled it better. I could have handled it differently. But you'll have people, they'll have problems, and then they want church members to take sides. You'll have young men and young ladies in the church that get their feelings hurt, and there's jealousy, and their hormones are working overtime. And so they start talking about it among themselves. Next thing you know, you got a church soap opera going on. And sometimes parents are blind enough to get caught up in it. I'll give you some words you ought to learn, Mom and Dad. Get over it. You need to tell your kids, get over it. What does that mean? Move on. What does that mean? Shut up! I'm telling you, especially when they're 13 and 14. I saw her talking to him the other day. I believe she likes him. And then this one that just heard it goes to another friend and says, I can't use names here because it's going to make it sound like I'm talking about you, but the names that come to my mind. The first one that came to my mind was Susie. I just think Susie, and that has nothing to do with Susie. And Susie got the news that she likes him, and Susie goes and tells Emma that Sally told me that she likes him. And then the next thing you know, the girl hears that he likes him. And now she's awkward around him. And they don't either one of them really like each other. It's just somebody started a rumor. And then one of them gets their feelings hurt and tells Mom and Dad, and then Mom and Dad gets mad at the other person's Mom and Dad. And then when everybody takes sides. Grow up. It's a good way to keep the church on edge. Looking over your shoulder, ill and cranky, because somebody said somebody liked somebody when they didn't even like them. This is what happens in churches to get our flesh to rise up, to get our emotions to rise up. And say, it ain't good to be a part of the family of God. I'm so bad and mad and bad. I don't like being a part of the family. That's about the way we act sometimes. Or people post things on Facebook and cast doubt and undermine and stir up skepticism. Cause people to wonder if the pastor really did that. Or did so-and-so really do that? And then everybody starts talking about it. Next time they go to church, they can't even think about the Word of God. Everybody wants everybody else to take sides. Now you might say, Brother Lon, are you talking about wolves? Are you calling us wolves? Let me ask you something. When Jesus called them wolves in Matthew, was he talking about literal wolves or wolves that act like wolves? He's talking about spiritual wolves. He's talking about people who have these qualities. And all of us are prey to that. All of us are prone to do that. A lot of things I could say about wolves today. I decided to look it up. They assess their prey, wolves do, looking for any sign of weakness. That's what wolves do. They'll find your weakness. They know areas where they can get you bogged down at. Young people, if you've got a weakness, there's wolves that'll know how to take advantage of that. It said about the female wolf that she's always darting back and forth before her prey, creating confusion. I don't know what you're going to do with that, but it just sounded like it needed to be said. The article I read from a shepherd said sheep are at their highest risk when they're isolated from the herd. It said the sheep that are easiest to get by the wolf are those that are isolated from the herd or those that have been injured. You've been injured. You got your feelings hurt. And the wolf is coming after you. One quote from a shepherd said the best defense mechanism for sheep is to stay in a group. Another man said normally when a wolf gets one sheep, he will get others. It said wolves often abandon their search at the sight of one shepherd. As soon as they see one shepherd, that's a genuine shepherd, that will do the tough job, they abandon their search. In short, if you study wolves in the Bible, they're pretentious. They pretend to be something they're not. What's on the inside is not what's on the outside. They scatter the sheep in different directions. They want the sheep away from the shepherd, and they go after one sheep to get to other sheep. That's what the Bible teaches about wolves. Paul says, look out for the wolves. Now listen what he says. Grievous wolves shall enter in. He doesn't say they might. If you're not careful, you'll read Paul and say, Paul's just cynical. Poor old Paul, he can't just enjoy life and be positive. He's always looking for the negative. He doesn't say there might be wolves. He didn't say it's a possibility. He said, look out, wolves are coming your way. There will be wolves. He's not negative. He's not a cynic. He's a realist. He's been studying human nature for 47 years. And he knows how it works. And so he says to me today in verse 31, therefore, watch. To the elders, watch. To the leadership, watch. Don't be naive. Don't be negligent. Be aware of what's going on. People are going to say, well, you're just too nosy. You're too curious. You don't have to know everything. No, you're exactly right. But I've got to keep my eyes open. I've got to watch. Paul says this in verse 31, watch and remember that by the space of 3 years I cease not to warn everyone night and day with tears. I want to close with this thought. I want you to listen to me, please. No doubt people heard Paul preach. Even when he criticized himself, he said, my preaching was not in words of wisdom. He said, I wasn't an excellent orator. He said, I wasn't the kind of guy that could command attention. According to Paul, he was often physically weak in his appearance. He probably was very short, probably had eye problems, probably looked physically unpleasant. He said, I preached with great plainness of speech. He said, some of you say my speech is contemptible. He said, though I be rude in speech, Paul, according to 2 Corinthians, could be very sharp with his preaching, very pointed. And I would say people listened to Paul and thought he was too plain and too contemptible and too rude and too pointed and just too loud, and probably never once even considered the tears. Probably never crossed their mind that this man wept the night before. All they hear is somebody looking them in the eye and telling them they're wrong. You understand my point this morning? For those of you who want a Bible-believing, Bible-preaching church, and you desire to make a difference in the days to come, my heart's desire is to feed the flock, protect the flock, and lead the flock. And I'm an open book. I want you to know my heart. And I make mistakes and I fail miserably. But I can tell you one thing, my heart's in it. My heart's in it. I want to see us do more in the next few years than we've ever done before. By the book. Honoring the Lord, His will, His purposes, His plans. And the only way that'll work is for us to deny ourselves and let Him call the shots. Let's all stand, heads are bowed, eyes are closed. I'm going to ask that we have a time of invitation this morning.